Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million strategy roundtable for entrepreneurs. 1M by 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator for technology startups. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. And in support of that mission, we've been doing these kinds of free mentoring roundtables since 2008. This is the 677th session. And there are a bunch of things that are going on in the industry that are new and hot and exciting and moving at a furious pace. So I have invited Dave Hornik to be a part of this show today and discuss those trends. Dave, welcome to the program and great to see you again.
Yeah, great to see you. Thanks for having me. That's a lot of gatherings. Congratulations.
Thank you. So Dave, I want to start, you've been doing this for a long time. You were at the August Capital for a while. And I remember when we were one of the 3 or 4 people writing technology blogs way back when,
back in the day.
2000s. So we've been kind of trend spotting and reacting on trends for a while, forecasting and reacting. I want to start with the AI-driven ultralight startup trend first.
Okay.
Everybody's talking about it. If you look at the LinkedIn water cooler and so on, everybody, I'm sure the VCs are facing tremendous FOMO on these ultralight hyperscalers, and they are salivating to invest in them. How do you parse this trend? I have thoughts, I've been thinking about it, and it'd be great to kind of brainstorm about this trend first, because it's very relevant for our audience where we, when nobody did, we supported solo entrepreneurs. We've always supported ultralight startups and so on. And the AI phenomenon is super turbocharging that whole business. So let me hear your thoughts on how you are thinking about this.
Well, I guess I'd start with, I think there's often this sense that venture capital is the win, right? Or is the loss, depending on who you are. There's some people who think it is success to raise venture capital as opposed to build a business, and then it is a failure to raise venture capital because you've given away too much of your company. And what I'd say to that is venture capital is a tool, right? Yeah. For businesses that require more capital than the business itself can generate. So if ultimately you can achieve the things that you're hoping to achieve without venture capital and without selling a piece of your business, then great, more power to you. And while I think that great venture capitalists have a lot to add to help you build a business, to help you build teams, all those things, I think that venture capital in itself is not a win. I think that venture capital is a tool. It's the capacity to accelerate your business with capital that you can't otherwise generate from your business.
I'm so glad you're underscoring this. We have been ad nauseum saying this from the very beginning of this program. You may have seen my description of entrepreneurship is customers, revenues, and profits. Financing and exit are optional.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, look, if you could build an amazing business where you paid yourself hundreds of millions of dollars a year in profits, great. Then you have that forevermore. There was a great founder here in the Bay Area who started a business and had paid himself $1 billion before he bothered to sell the business. And by the time he sold the business, he sold it for $350 million, and it didn't matter because he'd already made $1 billion, exactly. Right? Exactly. And taken $0 in venture money. So now, having said that, I think there are lots and lots of businesses where then the measure of is it a good investment is also very simple, which is if I am going to give you $10 million for 20% of your business, can you increase the value of your business by more than 20%? Can you accelerate the increase in value in your business by more than 20% with that $10 million? Mm-hmm. So if ultimately the $10 million increases the value by 10%, that was not a good investment. But if ultimately you use that $10 million to double the value of your business, that was a fantastic use of equity to acquire the capital you need to increase the value of the remaining ownership. So that's the first premise, which is that raising capital is a tool in the same way that debt is a tool, et cetera. If you can build an ultralight business that requires no capital because you don't need additional, you're leveraging other people's infrastructure, you're using an open AI model, you're using whatever, and you can make more money than it costs you to deliver that solution, then that's fantastic. And you should go build that. And whether or not that is a venture fundable business should not be your primary concern. The question is, can you build the business you hope to build? And if you can, you should be thrilled that that's a possibility. And AI is making that dramatically more possible, right? It's easier to create the experience that you want to create. It's easier to generate the sorts of marketing and sales material that you hope to generate, et cetera. So theoretically, AI should make all of these pieces less expensive and easier to do with fewer humans, and therefore more easily sustainable by you. So that's all great.
There's one question that I want to ask you in that I agree with everything you said. AI is making everything easier and cheaper to build, except perhaps marketing, because the market is going to become noisier. So
for sure, right? You're going to have to think of new categories. You're going to, like, if you thought that content creation was your channel to marketing, right as the AI content generation explosion occurred, LinkedIn said they were going to generate 1 million pieces of content.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay, great. So what are we supposed to do with the fact that LinkedIn's generating 1 million this year and, everybody else is generating 1 million? There's a lot of noise.
Yeah.
And then we have a lot of AI that's optimizing for other channels, but in order to optimize, you're all optimizing around the same thing.
Exactly.
If you don't understand, if you can't appreciate this phenomena, all you have to do is get on a very crowded highway where everybody is using Google Maps, because it starts pulling people off the highway into neighborhoods. The problem is, if it pulls everybody into the neighborhood, now the neighborhood's terribly crowded and and you've just spread the traffic jam, right? So when everybody is optimizing, ultimately there is no optimal route, right?
Right.
If a single person is optimizing, they have a whole bunch of opportunity. So I totally agree with that. The bigger question for me as an investor is sustainability, right? I do think that there in the near term are a bunch of opportunities to address things for the first time that allow you to use, other people's infrastructure, pick the LLM of your choice and create value.
Yeah.
The question is, can you create long-term value? Is it different? Is it long-term differentiated? And is there a moat? Will your business increase value that is defensible over time?
Yeah.
If that's what you're doing. And my suspicion is that actually that will not be the case. My suspicion is that the low-hanging fruit today is low-hanging fruit, but therefore lots of people are spotting it. There's lots of opportunity. It's going to be competitive, and it will be hard to differentiate in the long term, and it will be hard to be defensible in the long run. And so that's the thing. And it may be fine. It may be fine that people say this is a land grab, and let me make money selling jeans to the gold miners while I can. Eventually, the gold mine is empty, and there are no more jeans to sell. And then you have to figure out: are you Levi's selling jeans to everyone, or are you the folks who are selling pans for gold, and the pans have no additional use once you're done with gold panning?
Yeah, and the thing that has our industry has always won with is domain knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you have defensible domain knowledge with which you create a moat, that is going to continue to be sustainable competitive advantage, I think. And that has not changed with AI. That remains a fact. The tools that have changed around.
Not sure about that. And here's
No?
why I'm not sure about that. AI will allow you to train, the engine on domain knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So it is conceivable. It is true that being ahead of the curve has allowed, some of the early AI meets law tech to use domain knowledge of what the law firms need to create a tool that will make it easier to write a brief or write a, or a contract or whatever. But in the long run, I think the capacity to take all of the domain and train an AI will allow the AI to encompass that domain knowledge in a way that may not allow for defensibility in the long run for the folks who got there first because they understood the space.
Okay, so let me push you on that a little bit.
Yeah.
This is great, by the way. This is exactly what I want our audience to go through. So let's take the example of AI-enabled drug discovery.
Yes.
This is it's one of the most promising areas what excites me the most, actually. There is domain knowledge that AI is going to accomplish by training the models, but you also need scientists who understand those domains to be able to do something with that AI.
Yeah.
Is that not a defensible competitive advantage?
I guess we'll see. It's interesting to talk about this particular scenario. I taught a class at Stanford Law School this quarter, and this was what we talked about. It was talking about licensing, and it was AI generated drug candidates go to a company that uses CRISPR to create drugs. Those drugs get to test efficacy using a big corporation that's good at drug testing. And so the question is, okay, which of these companies is defensible in the long run, right? Is it the company that is generating the candidate drugs? And I do think that domain will allow for a better purposed vertical solution. And that's what we're talking about here. Drug discovery is a vertical solution of LLMs, and I think that's true. And I think that you will need some domain expertise to understand what the right inputs are and what the right outputs are. And the question is, my suspicion is that's not a unique knowledge. I think that there are a small number of people who have that knowledge, and therefore the more of the knowledge you have, the better positioned you are. Mm-hmm. But my belief at the moment, and I can be disabused of this over time, but my belief at the moment is that one of two things will differentiate you. Either you will be able to create your own LLM that is somehow uniquely situated to a particular problem solving, right? So there are some folks who are working on LLMs that are really using math, right? That are self-validating using math and the laws of math and the laws of physics, mm-hmm. as opposed to just sort of a standard LLM which uses estimation. Mm-hmm. And those will be better at some things. And if you have a unique set of formulations or whatever, you could create a better LLM for a particular domain, and that will be differentiated and protectable. Mm-hmm. So that's one area. Mm-hmm. And it is certainly possible that one could do that in the drug discovery space. It could be that these drugs, if you have a full understanding of drug candidates, are validating. If you fully understand the domain, you can create a differentiated LLM. So that's one version where the tech itself is differentiated and defensible. Yeah. The other version is that you have unique information, right? Because ultimately these LLM models are only as good as the training information you give them. Yep. And if you are somehow uniquely situated to have training data, yep. that someone else doesn't have, then you could actually have proprietary outputs. And it is conceivable that the biggest, that a major university could keep its research to itself for purposes of training LLMs, which will then be better, better able to create a defensible set of drug candidates because the underlying information it has is better. Is that good for the planet? It's like, oh, that's an interesting question, right? We have gotten to great innovation over time because of information sharing.
Yeah.
And so it will be an interesting thing to see whether we've created a world in which the value of global knowledge is easily repurposed in a way that folks will hang on to it for themselves more.
Yeah. Yeah. From a very simplistic perspective, I kind of look at the universe and what's happening in the technology world. I don't have the knowledge to do drug discovery, right? I can't just do this. I just don't have the depth of knowledge to be able to do this, which is kind of, I'm generally an extremely intelligent person. I have plenty of intellectual horsepower, but it's not sufficient. It's necessary, but not sufficient to do drug discovery. That's kind of, one of my guiding factors, that I cannot do this. I can do a lot of other things.
But here's what I would say to you. I totally get that. And yet, I often tell this story because I think it speaks to this question. I had 4 small children, and so as tightly grouped. So I spent a lot of time at pediatricians' offices, in the ER with fever, kids with fevers, etc. And by the time I got to kid number 4, when I found myself in an emergency room, I described for the doctor answered all the questions the doctor was going to ask me in advance, using the words he was going to use, not because I was a doctor, but because I had had 4 small children worth of being asked these questions and understanding it. And by the time, and so I said, here's Bubba, he has an elevated heart rate and a this and a that. And whenever I finished, the doctor and the ER said, are you admitted at Stanford or are you admitted at another hospital? And I said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not a doctor. And he said, really? Now it was because I knew his vocabulary, not because I had some distinct piece of information, but over time I had acquired all the necessary vocabulary to speak his language in advance of him making then the medical diagnosis. So, which is just to say, a lot of this stuff is not really about having some deep and unique knowledge. It is about understanding the domain. And I do think that if what you chose to do was say, like, okay, I want to understand the drug discovery pipeline, et cetera, and I'm going to leave the science to the LLM, you might be able to do that in a relatively short period of time. And we have a lot of entrepreneurs probably listening to this who are like, yeah, I don't know how to manufacture things, but I'm going to become a manufacturing expert and do that. I was literally talking to a guy yesterday who's working on a set of bots for customer service. But he said he has friends who have these manufacturing facilities who have asked him, could you put your mind to creating a set of solutions for us that would take a bunch of labor out of the process of manufacturing? And he said, as a non-manufacturing expert, absolutely.
I also feel like I can do that. Diagnostic related stuff, I'm also doing that all the time within our family, and we're struggling with something. This doctor is siloed and doesn't know that doctor's situation. I plug it into ChatGPT gives me something, I diagnose, right? So I think I agree with you that there's certain things that generally intelligent people using AI can go very far.
I suspect that's drug discovery.
You suspect that's drug discovery too. Okay, I still have to think about that. That's something that I don't feel so comfortable that I can do drug discovery.
Give it time.
Okay. Let's switch our discussion to agents.
Yes.
I've been excited about agents for a very long time, and it's great that it's finally happening. So, how are you thinking about agents? Agents, I think, in terms of actually automating a huge amount of workflow, agents are perfect. The APIs are starting to be available to be able to integrate, and I mean, you can do an enormous amount with agents. This week, NVIDIA's earnings call, Jensen Huang talked about these tens of millions of agents that are going to be running around all over the world and eating up into, the technical horsepower, the CPU horsepower, and all that seems completely reasonable.
Yep.
So how, from a startup point of view, how do you think about agents? What is defensible? What is worth building revenue generating, profitable, sustainable companies on?
Yeah, same problem, right? I mean, ultimately, I just don't think anything, the AI thing is the same as every other trend I've seen in software for the 25 years I've been investing. It may be more powerful in some ways, but it's not different. And all we have to do is look back to the internet, right? The emergence of the internet and connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody said at that time, oh my God, everything's going to be reinvented. And then everything started being reinvented. There was a bunch of economic value, and then there was a crash because it was like, wait a second, everything's not going to be reinvented. And in fact, they were wrong. In fact, everything was reinvented.
Yeah.
And it just was a question of time frame. And now, if you look at it, right, the impact of connectivity has been, in my mind, the greatest impact in our lifetime of any technology, including AI. So all these people who say, oh, AI is the most important, technology of our lifetime, it is not, because if you disconnected all these devices, AI would be pretty meaningless. But because there is an internet, and because we have a universe of connected devices, then AI can be astonishing.
Yeah.
When the internet occurred, everybody said, okay, what are the problems that we've been trying to solve forever that now we can solve in a differentiated and better way? And the answer was basically everything.
Yes.
And over time, everything was solved. And look, and everybody said, oh, we should have a digital calendar, an online calendar. And then there were a bunch of online calendar companies that attacked it. And and then you say like, oh, then the problem's solved, right? No more calendaring. I represented when.com, WHEN.com. Bill Trenchard, now a managing partner of First Round Capital, created snap.com, the other first calendar company and whatever. And so everybody's like, oh, the calendar thing's been solved. And then Calendly came along and said, wouldn't it be easier if you just had this sort of more agentic way of figuring out when to meet with people? And boom, suddenly there's a new billion-dollar business. And I would anticipate that the AI wave will solve this problem in an even more compelling way, as it has the capacity to not only understand your calendar and your behavior and your opportunities, but the people you're trying to meet with. And it will keep track of things like, oh, but right now I will occasionally say to someone, oh, next time I'm in Boston, I look forward to connecting. And I copy my assistant as if she's going to set aside a list of these people are in Boston, these people are in Washington, D.C. And she does have that list. But most people don't have a Jenna. And even if you do have Jenna, is Jenna going to remember it? And am I going to remember it? And whatever else. But with AI, suddenly, when I put on a flight to Boston on my calendar should be able to unearth all the people that I claimed I wanted to see. More importantly, AI can actually figure out which I actually wanted to see. And suddenly, the calendaring problem that we thought was solved with, Outlook, and then we thought was solved with when.com, and then we thought was solved with Calendly, is going to be solved with, Calendar AI, which suddenly, or mylife.ai, in a way that we thought. So I think that every problem that we previously had and we thought we had solved with software can now be solved with agentic AI.
Yeah.
and will be done so in an interesting way that better understands the broader universe and allows for better solutions, some of which will eliminate humans, but not all of which.
Mhm. Yeah. I was also thinking about agentic AI with in comparison to two trends that we have gone through, massive trends. One is e-commerce, and the other is software as a service. Now, if you look at the e-commerce world, Shopify came along, Shopify and comparable platforms came along. It made it really easy to build shops, online shops. And that really was created this golden age of bootstrapped e-commerce businesses. Everything got reinvented. Every niche e-commerce, every specialty retail got reinvented, and the whole Main Street, setting up a shop in Main Street became setting up a shop on the internet, no real estate, and that became one of the easiest bootstrap business strategy on the planet.
Yep.
Now, if you look at the SaaS world, again, we have seen tremendous reinvention of, from client services. It's not so much the architecture that was before SaaS, the licensed software and all of that. When that became software as a service, lots of workflows got changed. The big win was that the mid-market and the small businesses started being able to access software. Cloud computing was a boon to them because they were able to access software. And from the entrepreneur's point of view, the small business market became a reachable market, delivery-wise, cost, unit economics-wise, and everything. So that was a major, but it did not have the same level of entrepreneurship that e-commerce saw, right? So there were many more bootstrap e-commerce entrepreneurs than bootstrap SaaS entrepreneurs. So venture funded entrepreneurs, there were more on the SaaS side than on e-commerce, because e-commerce was not necessarily this scalable category except for a few big domains. Now, which path is AI agent going, AI in general and agentic AI in particular going to take? Something tells me it's going to go the e-commerce route. This is really conducive to doing bootstrapped entrepreneurship at scale, and the pace at which the infrastructure is coming up. The layers of abstraction are really getting built very fast. Platform as a service is happening at a completely different level. Again, NVIDIA, the earnings call was all about AI factories, a full stack AI solution available at the tip of people's fingers. I mean, it's amazing the level of infrastructure development that is happening this time round. So how do you see, and the reason I stress bootstrapped entrepreneurship so much is, one, for all the things that you said early on, but also bootstrapped entrepreneurship is the feeder to scalable entrepreneurship. You kind of have to build something bootstrapped before people put money into it, most of it. Very few people write checks on ideas. So you kind of have to validate your whatever thesis you have, and then you can raise money. So bootstrap entrepreneurship is the cornerstone of, high degrees of venture capital work as well. So how do you see this panning out?
Well, I mean, I think you're right. There's a very smart young student who ended up at Stanford B School, who I knew when he was an undergrad. And at the time he was helping put himself through B School, because it turned out that there were multiple e-commerce channels where he could buy something on an eBay, or he could buy it on Amazon, or he could buy it on shop.com or whatever. And then he could sell it on those same platforms. And he had written a set of tools, now bots, right? Mm-hmm. Not AI bots, but in the early days bots, that would constantly track the selling price and the buying price of these particular things. And he would list, when there was a gap, he would list them on the respective target platform, sell it, and then buy it from the other one and drop ship it to the person who bought it and keep the margin between the two platforms, right? And he did nothing. His agent would sell it, buy it, ship it, and the two platforms did all the work of taking the money, taking the goods, pushing the goods, etc. And so, which was fantastic. And of course, it was only a question of time until that disunity came together or whatever. But by the way, it still exists, right? If you go, you can find better prices on one thing than another thing. And so agents are going to be able to do these things, right? They're going to be able to do a bunch of these things. And the existence of infrastructure companies that enable the component parts is what's differentiated. Because now, right, it's great to start a shop, but like, it was, a bunch of handmade stuff that we're selling in a shop. That was Etsy, and now you could do that. But most of that money is really someone else is making a thing. You're marketing it on your shop. You're not even holding inventory. You're just selling it. And so creates real value in the manufacturing. It creates real value in the shipping. It creates real value in the marketing, right? And there are a bunch of businesses that are solving these problems so that small business owners can pull together their solutions to make a little bit of money.
Yeah.
And the solutions are going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so what are the solutions you can make, right? What are the infrastructure pieces that will allow others to leverage the technology advancements to build their own businesses? Those will be the better businesses, and they're still bootstrappable for sure. But that distinction of like, I can build a bootstrap business that makes me some money sitting on top of other people's platforms is dramatically less interesting than I can build a platform that allows others to take advantage of the technology that I've built, and I get to scale and grow with their businesses.
So, yes, with your venture capitalist hat on, I will also present another angle to how to think about this, partly because of the audience that we cater to, which includes these small entrepreneurs who are not necessarily thinking about venture capital. There was a technology that you and I have gone through in personal experiences early on in our blogging days called AdSense, remember?
Yeah.
All over Asia, Latin America, India, of course, there were these people who were just making money off AdSense.
Click.
Right? Yeah. So these kinds of stuff that you don't make a lot of money on, but you make a little bit of money on. And the e-commerce example is good. AdSense is a very good example in this category. These can bring up very large numbers of people and their livelihood, become their livelihood. So I think that gets
that's influencers are doing exactly that, right? It's a whole new category that who knew that it existed, but there are a set of platforms now that make it possible for you to be an influencer, a micro influencer, a macro influencer, and make a living, right?
Right. Yes, and I think this AI agent technology is interesting in that from that hat on, I think if the layers of abstractions become really powerful and you can do very lightweight agent development, and then you can sell those agents, and there are now AI marketplaces coming together. I think Dharmesh Singh, who was also an original early blogger during our days and then went on to do HubSpot, he's doing an agent marketplace, and I think these are good infrastructures where people can sell. This is the equivalent of the eBay marketplace, right? You put agents in the marketplace and people buy your agents and start using your agents. So I think that infrastructure is also going to be important for a certain class of entrepreneurs who are not that sophisticated, who don't have that level of intellectual horsepower, but still can make a living.
Yeah, no, great. I mean, I think there is a distinction between venture backable and a good business. And I think there are lots of these tools are going to enable people to build great businesses. And, I had not thought that agents were going to be one of those businesses, that one could build a purpose-driven agent that does a particular thing for others. But you're right. If there are marketplaces of agents and one can create it and make it available, then it'll be like a physical good, right?
Yeah.
That does things like, great, solves for scheduling my kid's soccer team. Great, that's
Small
such a
point
perfect.
products.
Say it again.
Small point products, basically.
Yeah, which is great. Again, I think that if one can create a solution that generates more capital than it costs to create and is worth, and therefore is greater leverage on one's human capacity and time, that's a win.
Yes.
And the more people we can do that for, the more of a win it is. I do hope that it creates some genuine innovation, that we start making the planet a better place, that we don't just sort of optimize humans out of making a living in the name of, extracting a few pennies, right? But, look at the good news about these shifts is that humans who are doing jobs that involve other humans will always be engaged, right? I have a nephew who is currently applying to nursing school.
Yeah.
Nurses will be needed. Plumbers
Definitely.
will be needed.
Yes.
Roofers will be needed. These are not, the AI is not going to, in the near term, say, fix my broken toilet.
Yeah.
So,
and that's a good thing. What's missing on that front is the financial infrastructure to offer good quality nursing at scale to 10 billion.
For sure. And we should solve that problem.
We should solve that.
But not by creating efficiency that makes the human nurses' lives worse.
Yeah.
But by creating efficiency that make people healthier.
Right.
And make the nurses have a more rational life, So let's hope we find that.
Yeah. So Dave, last question before we go to the pitches. What have you invested in along these lines that you're really excited about, that you are okay with talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a couple. We have invested in a company called Stack AI. And a little bit to your point about, like, okay, these agents are going to allow for real innovation and solutions, for folks who have a certain domain expertise, but they don't want to or have the AI expertise. What Stack has done has created, sort of the Zapier of AI, right? It has a set of AI solutions that allow you to abstract out the problem from the AI. So if you are getting a bunch of inbound interest in your product, but you don't know how to take AI to transform it into a sales pitch that is specific to the person who it's reaching out to, et cetera, that's an easy problem for AI. Mm-hmm. And you can use Stack to connect up your inbound engine with your outbound engine and create personalized messaging, right? You can use Stack to solve all sorts of interesting things that AI agents can do without having to understand the underlying AI. So I think that that is going to be a profound opportunity for medium-sized businesses, not just small business, but medium-sized businesses. We have universities that are using it, real businesses that are using it, because they have product managers who want to incorporate AI, but they don't have the AI expertise. So that's one, Stack AI. Mm-hmm. I have a really fun one that's launching today. Go to vid.fun, VID.fun, and my team has built basically an agentic director of AI generated video. So you can go and tell it what you want the video to do. I want, make an ad for my thing that emphasizes these features. And then it will then use AI to say, okay, here's a storyboard for what that video should look like and say.
Yeah.
And you can tweak it. And then you say, great, generate it. And it generates an astonishing video that is completely generative. This is, it's using the latest AI video tools. It's using the latest LLMs to create the storyboard and the messaging. It's just astonishing what can be done.
Yeah.
And it takes 7 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So that's fun. The last one I'll share with you is a company called Pharos AI, F-A-R-O-S. And this is big, right? The team that built Einstein at Salesforce, the initial Salesforce AI platform,
Yep.
left to form Pharos because they felt like there was no good solution that was helping engineering teams to truly understand the quality, velocity, capacity of engineering teams. And so they built this platform that integrates with more than 100 of your systems out there. If you have big engineering teams, 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 engineers, and then allows you to understand what the engineers are actually doing, right? And which engineers are not just creating the most code, but are creating the best code. But the thing that it is actually best used for now is that if you're using AI to generate code, which now most folks are, there is no good way to understand the impact on your code base. Is it good code? Is it working? All these things. Well, Pharos, if you have integrated Pharos with your engineering pipeline, you can then determine, is this copilot increasing our velocity? Is it increasing the quality? Where are the bottlenecks, etc.? So it's going to be, as agents and LLMs become more important to the software development process, Pharos will become, I think, necessary for you to appreciate what is it doing to your code base.
Okay, fabulous. And I take it that it addresses to some extent the hallucination issues as well too.
100%. We'll be able to track, because it tracks not just code check-ins, but it tracks quality, it tracks QA, and it allows you to say, like, oh, it turns out these, these 3 copilots, this one is a dramatically better copilot in that regard, right?
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, great conversation. This was a fabulous conversation. We'll have you back. Everything is moving so fast, so we'll
it's crazy.
In 3 days we'll have more to talk about, but we'll talk again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Dave.
See ya.
Folks, we're going to go to the entrepreneur pitch session now, just to set some expectations for those of whom who are going to pitch today, and also those who are pitching at upcoming sessions. This is a safe working session. You do not need to be nervous or defensive or anything. We are on your side. Our only agenda is to help you move forward and remove roadblocks. And if you disagree with my feedback, that's fine. It's your venture. You do what you like. Just listen to the feedback. The feedback is based on lots of experience. So it's, it's good feedback and you should consider it. Okay, we are going to start. Is it Maitreyi who's going to do the presentation here? I resonate. Maitreyi, could you unmute your line?
Yes, I will be presenting. Hi.
Go ahead.
All right. So I'm Maitreyi, co-founder I Resonate, and 90% of the startups actually, even with the great idea, they fail due to poor go-to-market strategy. So that's where I Resonate comes into play. I Resonate is basically created for founders, which is their personalized social media or content marketing DIY toolkit that can amplify their go-to-market strategy to win their first 100 customers quickly. Next slide, please. So the target segment is basically the major target segment is the founders and the small to medium business owners. And then to expedite the process, the creators and the influencers and the digital marketing agencies are also the target segment. Next slide. Okay. So the problem is basically founders need a strong social media presence to build trust and attract customers. But there are challenges. For example, agencies create content. They actually follow that traditional go-to-market strategy to hire an agency, wherein the agencies create content that lacks authenticity, and founders basically they are busy, they lack the skills of content marketing, and staying consistent feels like an uphill battle for them because they don't have time also. So the result is missed opportunities, low engagement, and a slow go to market actually. But when you do it on your own, the benefits are many. Like you are the subject matter expert, you can have direct customer engagement, and you can have authentic mission shared directly with your customers. But since the problem is that you are unskilled, so can you please go to the next slide? Next. Okay. So because they get overwhelmed, they are not social media savvy, they are tech savvy, but they are focused on product, not on the customers. So that is the biggest problem, but the solution is that can combine the benefits of both the positives, which is we need a solution wherein the content is also polished, and the time taken is less, and it is done from the very beginning. So that is where iResonate comes into picture. So iResonate, can you go to the next slide? Sorry. So iResonate, how it solves it, it generates on brand content. On brand, that means the niche specific content without creating any random content. That's what the algorithms actually favor, the on brand content. That's what we have created through brand voice generation. And then you can have multiple social media branding automation by scheduling it over various social media platforms that you can do from the single platform. You don't need to hop onto multiple social media platforms. And then we have a lead generation process wherein the platform observes the pattern of the reactees on your posts, on your content, and then we capture those, and then the platform lets you know that the qualified leads, hot leads, warm leads, likely leads. So it gives you that information wherein you can start communicating with those leads. So that also is supported by the platform. The next slide, please. Okay, so the customer acquisition strategy currently we have is we are having the founder-led sales through LinkedIn. That is that me and my co-founder, we both are doing, and we have social media. We have strong social media presence for inbound lead generation. We talk to people inbound as well as outbound also, and we have referrals, blogs, and other content which we are utilizing our own platform, and marketplace listing like AppSumo and Deal Fuel. There are other places where we have listed our application. Next slide, please. So yeah,
let's go back to what you said here. Is your content AI generated?
It is both, basically. There are multiple ways by which you can enhance content, and you can add human intervention to the content generated. So this is, yes, AI generated is there. However, we have various LLMs, not only OpenAI, multiple LLMs. You can also create your own content. And we have certain AI tools which...
So what are you proposing? Do people outsource their content generation to you, or are you giving them a tool with which to generate content?
Yeah, they will be using, this is an online platform which they will be using. We are offering subscription to the platform, which they will create their...
It's not clear to me why we would use your platform versus just go to Gemini or ChatGPT and do it ourselves.
So if you do it through Gemini, there is a possibility that you will not be brand consistent. One. The second is you have to, the platform offers multiple AI tools wherein you can enhance content according to your needs. For example, we have idioms, rephrasing options, and depending on the tone. You do not want to rephrase the entire content. You just need to rephrase it according to certain emotions. For example, I am the emotional depiction of a particular sentence is somewhere showing anger. You want to change that. The tool offers that rephrasing facility according to the emotions, or the toning up, toning down. And you can have decorators. So this is basically.
Customers using this?
Sorry.
Do you have customers using this?
Yes, we have customers.
How many customers?
We have 50 customers.
And
Paid customers.
they're paying customers?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. And they're using this content generation?
That's correct, yes.
And this multiple social media publishing automation, is this a competitor to Hootsuite?
Can you say that again?
What you're proposing, is that a competitor to Hootsuite?
Yes, yes.
And how much do you charge?
So there are three plans. One is for only people who want to improve their writing. That is not AI generated. People like startup founders, they want to enhance their writing. So that's a separate plan that does not have come with the content scheduler. That's the basic plan. The second plan is wherein you get the scheduler or calendars, campaigns. That plan comes for yearly subscription price of 16,000. The first plan is around 12,000.
rupees.
16,000 INR, yes.
How much is that in dollars?
In dollars, it's 240 US dollar.
240 US dollars. So $20 a month, kind of.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, $20 a month.
Because Hootsuite right now is charging, what, $145 a month?
That's correct. Yes, that's heavy.
So is there any other tool in that category that you're competing with at your price point? That's
not at this price, yeah.
The reason I'm asking you this is that in everything you said to me so far, what looks like the most interesting actually is the scheduler. And I remember Hootsuite started in the market as a $5 a month product.
That's correct.
And they took off like wildfire.
Right.
So instead of doing all these things together, if you have a scheduler that is working and can work with multiple social media platforms, I think if you can do a $5 scheduler, and maybe altogether it's $20 per month or $240 per year, but if you just do a $5 scheduler, you may be able to just do your research on whether there are other products in that price point. But I think just the scheduler is something that you could get traction with, because Hootsuite has raised its price so much. I think you could get a lot of people from Hootsuite to just come onto your platform and adopt this.
Okay. Great.
So that to me is the most compelling thing that you've said so far. I'm not convinced about this. You heard the conversation that I just had with David Hornik and content.
Yeah.
Right. This content, building a business around content generation today is going to be really difficult because it's so crowded and there's so much garbage out there. And there are so many products in this category. It's a crowded, very, very crowded field. So you have to do your comparative analysis well and see where you're positioning this. Again, there could be a price-based positioning that may work for you. So take a look at that. But I think I do see the opportunity of just doing the scheduler as a separate product for $5 a month, and I think you could get a lot of traction there.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, of course, we have to understand what what is the product, and I think your positioning is weak because I couldn't really tell what is the value of the content generation engine. So I think since you have 50 customers, if their 50 customers are using that capability, you need to understand how they're using, why they're using, and what is it that they're getting value out of, and you have to figure out the positioning based on that.
So we also have the co-authoring along with the content creation, co-authoring wherein we can invite reviewers to review the content, and the workflows which are not agentic workflows, like those are the workflows wherein human and bots, they can collaborate and they can do man intensive work and the AI intensive work all together. And the status of the co-authoring content can be checked, and it can be assigned. So that is another value which this platform offers.
So what are, if you look at your 50 paying customers, what are they using? Are they using the content generation part, or are they using the scheduler?
I actually, yes, they are using content generation also, because the brand voice which we have recently added, that is actually giving us more value. Because the brand voice, it actually remains your focus on the topic generation, which generates on your niche. So that's what is actually people mostly are using.
Okay. All right. Well, the good news is you have customers, so you will need to really understand those customers to position the company. But it's one thing that stands out for me is the opportunity to use the scheduler as a separate product and just get it out there, and that's, I think, it's going to give you hundreds of thousands of users right away if you can market it a little bit.
Okay.
We use Hootsuite right now. If that product is available at $5 per month, we would use it.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next, you can ask more questions later in the program. I will have more Q&A afterwards, but let me finish the other presentation. Dege is next, and it looks like his slides are on my screen at the moment. Dege, you can start your presentation.
Right. So thank you very much for inviting me.
Where are you joining from, Dege?
I'm currently at the Innovation Park in Zurich, Switzerland.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I mean the one in Lausanne, Switzerland.
Okay. All right. What are you working on?
All right. So I'm working on a platform, and I would like us to start with just pondering on a few questions. Let's start with, what does the future of work look like? Our companies and institutions that focus on education are addressing this. So those are some of the topics that I would like for us to address as we, explore what the future of work could be. Next slide, please. If you take the United States, there's about 20 million people that sign up to post-secondary learning online. If you are not one of them, you probably know someone. But if you don't, let's take the example of Candy. So she joined our program after completing a master in a STEM field, but she couldn't find a job. She then joined some of those MOOCs and other programs to get a certification. She managed to land an interview, but at the end of the interview, the recruiter tell her that, she is not meeting the requirement in terms of specific skills. She doesn't have the experience. It sounds familiar? Yeah. So, oh, sorry, I didn't ask to move to the next slide. All right, this is how Bill Gates looked at Candy's problem. He purports in his blog that AI will be able to work on personalization in terms of learning path, work on understanding when the engagement lowers, and use some prompt to nudge her into positive behavior. And building on this, next slide, please. I'm presenting to you a virtual practicum, which is hosted by Swiss STEM. So we offer the opportunity for learners to personalize their own learning journey, but we focus on practical experience. Next slide, please. So we have a 4 module, which start with an onboarding. Here we teach the users, the learners, on how to use Gen AI to understand what their own personal learning profile is. And then in the second module, based on that learning profile and their aspiration, we are able to plot a career trajectory using a recommender engine. And then in the third module, based on the learner profile and the career trajectory and the gaps that is existing, we are able to work with a company that is going to assign a practicum, which is a project. And then in the last module, this is a placement where it's outside of the test and sandbox environment. The participant has the opportunity to work on a virtual apprenticeship with one of the companies that we work with in Zurich. Next slide, please. So we have a two-sided business model. On the B2C side, we charge $20 a month for a bundle of specific services that we will see in the next slide. And for every credits, the learner buys an NFT. So we project about $250,000 this year, and the customer lifetime value is about 6 months, and we gross about $180 per users. For the B2B, so it's more of a kind of a consulting, I would say, program where we have companies that take part in the project as sponsors. And we also work with some affiliates when it comes to the learning content. And we project about shy of twice that amount for the financial year 2024-2025. The CLTV is a little bit
200
bigger.
paid subscribers since launch have worked on these 40 consulting projects. That's where you are right now?
Yes, we have about, I would say 3,000 users. And we have about, I think in the slide, you can see 60 corporate sponsors, yes.
No, but you said you only have 40 consulting projects that have happened so far, and you have 200. So do the free users get to work on these consulting projects, or only the paid user get to work on the consulting projects?
The paid users.
Right. So you have 200 paid users who have worked on 40 consulting projects. That's where you are right now.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is where we work on the monetization. Pretty much it's under positioning. So we focus on active learning, which you would typically see in more kind of training and bootcamp, and those are expensive. But here we are able to pay per item, and we have identified the items or the products that features that are of interest to the learner. So they're very much focused on getting the credentials, being paired with mentors, getting some networking activities. The list goes on. So for each of them, those are opportunities for us to charge the $20 that you saw in the previous slide. Next slide, please. So we focus on providing a platform for the user to create their own content, because what we've seen is that peer learning is something that connects with people that don't necessarily have a learning style which is bookish. So being able to be immersed and to work with other peers is what the learners like the most. So this is done through engaging with the learners. So we have a podcast. So far, we kept it internal, but we are going to go public with it. We have webinars, and at the conclusion of the second step, which is the sandbox, we ask students to write about their project, and we want to leverage this into white papers. And as I mentioned in the business model, we do work with some affiliates when it comes to the learning content and obviously advertising. Yeah. So as we integrate more automation, we want to spend a little bit less time on onboarding, and want to have this fully automated. But so far, we spend a lot of time doing this manually. Our plan is to grow, really focusing on user augmented content, so using AI and other tools.
You know, I don't buy into that strategy. User-generated content using artificial intelligence. The market is flooded with content like this. It's incredibly noisy.
Yes, it is noisy, but what we've seen, as I mentioned so far, is that the students really like the engagement. So
So
they
tell me
will,
more about these paying users, the
sure.
paying customers.
All
What
right.
is the
So
profile of these people?
yeah, so our profile is, I would say, 70% of them are less than 25.
Okay.
We can stay in the previous slide because this is going to get confusing otherwise. Thank you. 75% of them are less than 25. We have a almost even split when it comes to gender. They're very much interested in anything AI, technology.
Geography-wise, where are you marketing?
So we recently moved to Switzerland. We did a few tests in the US, but when we look at the geography, we had, I would say, 50% of the traffic that came from India, 20% US, and then the rest of the world.
So these 200 paying customers are from where?
Mostly US. I would say 80% of the paid customers are from the US.
And the companies that are giving you projects are from where?
So we were working with US companies, but given the shift in terms of some of the politics around inclusion in technology, we moved to Switzerland.
But you have Swiss companies signed up?
Yes, we do.
So the numbers that you quoted here, let's see, 60 corporate members, how many of them are continuing on the platform?
So those are spot projects. So let's take an example. They want a go-to-market strategy, and it's a technology company. So you know that's a spot project, like 6 months, and then we move on. So that's typically run over, I would say, for a corporation around 3 to 6 months, depending on the size of that project.
And how much are they paying for being on the platform for 3 to 6 months?
So on average, it's roughly between 500-700. It depends on the duration, but that's usually what we gross from a B2B customer.
So if the US customers go away, you have to rely on European customers. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they are not going away, but our emphasis is to focus more on European customers. We will still be active in the US, but our emphasis now is really on trying to, if I can say like this, we used to have like an 80-20 when it comes to companies. 80% of them were in the US. We want to have like 80% of them, or at least 50-50 between the two regions. We don't want to rely too much on the US.
And how much have you made? How much revenue have you made from the corporate side?
From the corporate side, shy of, I would say something like 60-70K.
Okay. And the consumer side?
For the consumer side, it is lower. So here we're looking more into, I would say 5K.
5K. So that's 3 years worth of work. 5K on the consumer side and 60K on the corporate side. This is not a high growth company for sure. So what are you trying to do? What brings you here? How can I help you?
All right. So as we focus more on the Swiss market, we change our focus to use Switzerland as a premier location for education and apprenticeship. And the idea would be to have students all across the world that work with Swiss companies to do their virtual practicum, to do their pre-apprenticeship. So it's a shift, slightly shift in terms of.
And this is virtual, yeah? The apprenticeship is virtual.
It's virtual unless you are in Switzerland, where there are some in-person visits to the companies.
Okay.
So the ask today is, as we have new companies that we have in our pipeline, is to have more users that will join us. And you can scan the QR code here to fill out the form and follow us on.
So this is not a marketing channel. This is a mentoring session. This is not a marketing session. So we don't invite people here to market their services.
Okay. So then I would go back to the slow growth comment. What is your insight in terms of how to accelerate that slow growth? Because there's been a lot of testing. I'm not working on this full time. So that's some insight that I would welcome from you.
I haven't looked at enough data to be able to comment on that.
Okay, this is the old slide. This is the old slide.
I'm just moving to a different section of the presentation, just slipping through your slides. So I need to see what your students are doing, what kind of projects you're getting from the corporate partners, who are the corporate partners, what kind of corporate partners are working with you, and to recommend a proper go-to-market strategy and a proper positioning. It's, you know, the growth comes from repeatability. Fast growth comes from repeatability.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand what is working and then replicate what is working across the board. So unless you can make it a repeatable process, you're not going to grow fast. Mm-hmm. So that's what, when we work with entrepreneurs, I'll explain to you how to work with 1 million by 1 million. If you decide to work with 1 million by 1 million, explain to you how to work with us, then I will look at it and I'll give you more concrete feedback based on understanding what your business currently or so far is and what can be made repeatable, how to move the levers of repeatability and how to make it a faster growth company. Okay. So let me explain a few things and then you guys can ask more questions as you wish. So 1Mby1M.com is where you will find everything in terms of resources from us. The premium program is our full acceleration program where you can get, whether you call it strategy consulting, mentoring, coaching, whatever, but interactive feedback on your project, on your strategy comes from the premium program. In the premium program also is the investor introduction function. So those of you who are coming here to raise money, you have to be in the premium program to access our investor network. The curriculum is accessible through both premium and basic. We have a very powerful curriculum and it's all case study based. You can access it from premium as well as basic. The basic is premium, is a curriculum only. And then we do have influencer marketing in the premium as well. So go to the website and look at what to expect from basic, what to expect from premium, and see how you want to engage with the program. Some of you ask for one-on-one consulting. It is available. It is a lot more expensive. So my recommendation would be to start with 1Mby1M Premium. The next few roundtables, we have one more in March, and then every week in April, we have roundtables. So if you're looking for a slot to discuss with me, please sign up and Maureen will schedule you. If you have questions about the program after today's session, you can contact Irina at 1Mby1M.com, and Irina is on our team. She can answer questions by WhatsApp, Skype, etc. And actually Skype is gone, WhatsApp, phone, whatever, email. So if you have any other questions now, I'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, we are done with the scheduled program. Anybody?
All right, so shall I chime in with my previous question, or is not the format?
You can ask questions. Yeah, you can ask more questions. Sure. All
right, great. So again, thank you. This is the second time that I come into the program, so you may not remember me, but I did come to pitch my my coaching business, and I switched this into like just having a small team and working with a small team and not going marketplace. This is something that kind of stemmed from that experience, because I've experience a lot of qualified people in terms of the degree that don't have the experience in terms of the work. So that's why the concept of this pre-apprenticeship program came into place. So first thing is context. So we are still experimenting. We're not in a growth stage yet. If you go into the new website, you'll see that you actually have to sign up for the new release. But my question is, in terms of traction and metrics, you mentioned in the outline, this is not a high growth business. How do you define a high growth business, and at what stage should you kind of pivot if you want to pitch to an investor and he gives me the same feedback as you, which is okay, 3 years, 60K. Well, I don't do this full time, but that's pretty much the metric that you said to me is actually low.
Company?
Right now, oh yes, I do. I mean, those are small amounts, friends. So we're not talking about professional investors, but yes, I do.
Investors, if you're looking at professional investors, they are looking to go from 0 to $100 million in 5 to 7 years. So in your company, if it takes 3 years to generate $60,000, that is a very slow growth company that will not be able to give any return to your investors. Investors don't invest in companies for just like that, right? They invest to get returns.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, if you have a bootstrap company, you can grow at whatever pace you want. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. But if you have investors in a company, you have to grow fast.
Understood. It's bootstrap, so we haven't been relying on we didn't go on roadshows and stuff like that.
Bootstrap, so. But you have investors. If you have investors, you have to give returns on that investment.
True. Those are small amounts in the tens of thousands, so we're not talking about
But they're not giving it to you for charity, are they? Are they giving it?
No, they're not.
$10,000, $20,000 to you just for charity?
No, they're not.
Then you have to give them returns, and with that kind of growth pace, you will not be able to give them returns.
Understood.
Okay.
Thanks for the candid feedback.
Any other questions? All right. That's it then. We will talk to you next week. Good luck. Take care. Bye-bye.